Joining me now, Congressman Andrew Clyde, a Republican from Georgia. Congressman, good to have you with us. I know that you've been very vocal about your support of the brave men and women of ICE. What do you think ought to happen next year? There's been a lot of talk about the Insurrection Act, sending in the military. What's the next step here?
Todd, it's great to be with you. And I 100% support what ICE is doing in Minnesota. If the illegals weren't there, ICE wouldn't have to be there. So what I think should happen here is that they should be going in. The political leadership in Minnesota should be supporting ICE. All right, they should be supporting removing these violent criminal, illegal aliens from their streets. But obviously, they're not doing that. They're siding with the criminal, illegal aliens, and they're putting the American citizens last. That's typical Democrat speak, and it's the way Democrats operate. The city is in a shambles when it comes to their leadership. You saw the mayor, the attorney general, the governor, all of them siding with the criminal, illegal aliens over the United States citizens. These people should be thrown out.
Yeah, Border Patrol Operations Commander Greg Vivino providing an update from Minneapolis today. Let's take a listen to that, Congressman.
What we've seen that's a bit different here is the organization of some of the groups. The groups are a bit better organized. They've got some excellent communications, and that coupled with a very poor response from the mayor and the governor, those two things coupled together make that a difficult operating environment at times.
Congressman, your reaction to that?
Well, what that kind of tells me is there's money behind these activists. And somebody is funding this. If they've got excellent communications, then that means that they've got the ability, to reach out and coordinate. And that tells me also that there's been some training involved here. And from what we saw in some more recent activists, in the way they've come against the ICE agents, that's really concerning because the ICE agents are simply enforcing the law. They're enforcing federal law. What we in Congress what we passed as legislation and what was signed into law to protect our country. And these protesters, these activists really are coordinating against them. And, I think the federal government is now what they should be doing is using the FACE Act against these particular people. I mean, you saw where the Biden administration weaponized it. Well, we're not weaponizing it. We're using it what it's actually intended for, and that is to protect houses of worship. All right, that's one of the aspects of the FACE Act itself. And so I think the Department of Justice should be going after every solitary one of these activists that interrupted that church service, all right, and finding out who they are and charging them with a violation, a criminal violation of the FACE Act.
Yeah, Congressman, we also understand DOJ today filed, and this is breaking news, filed subpoenas against Mayor Fry, Jacob Fry, Governor Tim Walz, also the Attorney General there in Minnesota for suspected obstruction of federal law enforcement. Look, we've been down this path many, many times with these subpoenas. If these guys are, in fact, guilty of what they're accused of, should they be going to jail?
Hey, nobody is up. No one is above the law in this country. That's for certain. And, when you are out there actively impeding law enforcement doing their job, then I think that you open yourself up for criminal investigation and criminal prosecution. So let the cards fall where they may. And if these folks have actually done this criminal act, then even if they're elected officials, then they should be examined and they should be indicted and they should go to trial over it. I think that's what our country demands.
So you're on the Appropriations Committee, Congressman, just released the text of a $10 billion funding bill for DHS. Ranking Democrat Rosa DeLauro said the bill is, quote, cuts ICE enforcement and removal operations reduces the number of detention beds, but it does not include broader reforms that Democrats proposed. Is this a win for Republicans?
Well, I'll tell you what, they might have cut $115 million from the Department of Homeland Security's budget. But we, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, we gave them 1,000 times that in the $100 billion that we funded to them in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the President Trump's signature piece of legislation. And he did that. We did that in Congress with Republican-only votes. And that was the intent of that was to make sure these illegal aliens were removed, that the funding was available to do that, to accomplish that, for us to be able to implement the law as it was written. And so, you know, the Democrats are going to say that they've got some wins in this bill, and that's fine, and they can vote against it if they want to. But I think this is going to be the Department of Homeland Security bill is going to be a good bill for this country.
All right, Congressman Andrew Clyde, thank you for joining us on Newsmax this evening.